High above the Arctic, a monster sleeps, a swirling mass of intensely cold air called the polar vortex. For most of the year, it's contained by the jet stream, a powerful river of wind that keeps the cold locked away. But sometimes, the jet stream weakens, the giant stirs and escapes. In January 2025, the polar vortex broke free, and America was in its path. Imagine a spinning top. As long as it spins steadily, it stays put. The polar vortex is that top, and its stability is our shield. But the atmosphere's balance is delicate. A subtle shift can trigger chaos. Early 2025 brought unsettling changes in the upper atmosphere. Meteorologists watched as the jet stream began to buckle. The once stable fence wavered, forming deep, looping waves. The gate was opening. The polar vortex was about to unleash Arctic air on a scale unseen in modern times. This wasn't just another winter storm, it was a breakdown in the planet's atmospheric machinery. The cold, meant to stay in the Arctic, was preparing to spill southward with a vengeance. The stage was set for an event that would shatter records and test the nation's resilience. The Great American Freeze of 2025 was about to begin. No one was truly prepared for the intensity of the cold that was coming. The invisible battle above would soon become a very real crisis below. The polar vortex, once contained, was now a force on the move. America braced for a winter like no other. The countdown to catastrophe had begun. The unseen giant was awake. To understand 2025, look far above the clouds at the jet stream, a fast-flowing river of air separating warm from cold. Normally, it keeps the polar vortex locked in the Arctic. But in winter 2024-2025, a sudden stratospheric warming event struck, destabilizing the vortex. The jet stream wobbled, and the vortex split into wandering fragments. One massive lobe of Arctic air broke free, sliding south as the jet stream's path twisted and dipped. This wasn't a typical storm. It was an invasion of pure, ancient cold. Air that had swirled over the North Pole now settled over Chicago, Dallas, even Miami. The cold was dense, brutal, and relentless. When the atmospheric river breaks its banks, the lands downstream are flooded. In January 2025, the jet stream was the river, and the flood was a wave of polar cold. The science is simple, but the consequences were profound. The United States was about to face a cold unlike anything in living memory. The Arctic had come to stay. The nation would never forget it. The Arctic air's arrival was a shockwave. On January 14th, temperatures in the upper Midwest plunged. Minneapolis dropped 20 degrees in an hour. By nightfall, the region was locked in a cold that defied belief. International Falls, Minnesota, -58 Fahrenheit. Chicago wind chill of -65. Records shattered. Chicago hit -30. Dallas dropped to -2, and freeze warnings reached Orlando. Pipes burst, fountains froze, and the deep south was paralyzed. Nearly 200 million Americans were under winter weather alerts. The U.S. map became a sea of blue and purple, Arctic air's hostile takeover. Over 3,000 daily low-temperature records fell in a week. More than 250 cities set all-time record lows. The air was so cold it crackled. Sundogs danced around the sun. It was beautiful, terrifying, and humbling. The numbers told a story, but the experience was unforgettable. The Great Freeze was not just a meteorological event, it was a national ordeal. The cold reached every corner, sparing no one. America was at the mercy of the Arctic. The true test had begun. America's cities were paralyzed overnight. In Chicago, rail workers set tracks on fire to keep steel from cracking, but trains still crawled. Airports became graveyards for grounded planes, jet fuel thickened, de-icing failed, and thousands of flights were canceled. On highways, diesel, fuel, gelled, and salt lost its power. Interstates closed, supply chains froze. The energy grid strained as demand soared and supply faltered. In Texas, gas wells froze. In Iowa, wind turbines stopped. Rolling blackouts plunged millions into darkness and cold. Water mains burst. Geysers of ice formed on city streets. Firefighters battled blazes with hoses that froze solid. Schools and businesses closed. States of emergency were declared. The message: stay inside. The air itself was a threat. A few minutes outside could mean frostbite. A few hours, death. The machinery of modern life was no match for the Arctic. Survival became the only priority. The nation was frozen in place. Behind the headlines were stories of survival and loss. In Wisconsin, mail carrier Sarah braved the cold to deliver not just mail, but groceries and medicine to the homebound. Parents huddled with children in dark, freezing homes, telling stories to distract from the fear. Homeless shelters overflowed. Cities opened emergency warming centers in libraries and arenas. Volunteers worked around the clock, offering hot soup and blankets. Strangers pushed stalled cars, neighbors shared generators, and coffee shops became refugees. But tragedy struck, too. A father in Illinois died in his car. An elderly woman in Ohio passed away after her furnace failed. The cold was indiscriminate, but the vulnerable suffered most. The freeze stripped life to its essentials: warmth, shelter, community. It was a return to basics, a reminder of our fragility. The best and worst of humanity emerged. The Great Freeze was a test of spirit as much as infrastructure. We learned that in crisis, kindness matters most. The stories of 2025 will be told for generations. The cold changed us. To grasp 2025's magnitude, look to history. Legendary cold waves, 1899-1985, set records, but 2025 shattered them. Chicago's -30 wasn't just a number, it broke a psychological barrier. Dallas at -2 was an alien climate for a subtropical city. Past cold waves were punches. 2025 was a sustained, suffocating freeze. The cold lingered for a week, testing power grids and human endurance. Scientists see a troubling trend. Stratospheric warming events destabilizing the vortex are becoming more common. A warming Arctic paradoxically brings more intense cold to the mid-latitudes. The 1899 freeze was a random act. 2025 may be a symptom of a less stable climate. It was not just an echo of the past, but a preview of a volatile future. The rules are changing. The next great freeze may come sooner than we think. The past is no longer a reliable guide. Humans weren't the only ones struggling. Wildlife faced a battle for survival. Birds froze by the thousands as food vanished overnight. In Florida, iguanas fell from trees, sea turtles were stunned by frigid waters, and volunteers raced to save them. Even resilient mammals like deer moved closer to towns, desperate for food. Fish died in shallow lakes as oxygen vanished beneath the ice. The cold was a silent killer, thinning herds and flocks in days. The event was a brutal natural culling, unseen in modern times. Wildlife's struggle was a barometer for the freeze's severity. When ancient survivors falter, something fundamental has changed. The images of frozen animals were a heartbreaking reminder of nature's fragility. The 2025 freeze was a stress test many species failed. Our ecosystems are balanced on a knife's edge. The lesson: climate shocks ripple through every living thing. The power grid, our invisible lifeline, was pushed to the brink. Demand for heat soared as supply faltered. Coal piles froze, gas wells seized, wind turbines stopped. Rolling blackouts swept the Midwest and South, plunging millions into darkness. The crisis exposed deep vulnerabilities: just-in-time fuel delivery, lack of winterization, and cascading failures. A single plant's failure could ripple across states. The need for resilient, modernized infrastructure became urgent. Yet, grid operators worked heroically, rerouting power and making impossible choices. The grid bent, but didn't break. The freeze sparked a national conversation about energy security. Investments in winterization and storage accelerated. The Great Freeze was a wake-up call. Our future depends on learning from it. As the cold receded, America began to thaw and reflect. The Great Freeze left broken pipes, battered infrastructure, and hard lessons. It exposed our dependence on a stable climate and the fragility of our systems. Emergency plans were rewritten, building codes reviewed, and energy companies invested in winterization. The paradox of a warming world bringing colder extremes became part of public debate. The link between a warming Arctic and a wavier jet stream was no longer theory. It was lived reality. The freeze also revealed the power of community neighbors helping neighbors, strangers sharing warmth. Our greatest resource in crisis is each other. The 2025 polar vortex was not a freak event, it was a warning. As the Arctic warms, the risk of future cold waves grows. The future demands resilience, preparation, and understanding of our changing climate. The giant at the top of the world is restless. We must be ready for the next awakening. The story of 2023, onding yeser buwan soiskuru standard 25 or Mai. Sir Furdi Stanem on Group is a glimpse of what's to come. Sendai.